So far, we've seen really good methods in client-side attacks. These methods were really good because we didn't really need to ask the client to do anything. We would gain access to the target computer if the client update their system, or if they download something, then we'll backdoor it on the fly. So these methods are really good because we don't actually need to interact with the person does need to do something, so the user has to actually do an action, but we don't need to ask them to do something. The only problem with these methods is that we need to be the man in the middle. So we either need to do ARP poisoning, or we need to start our own fake access point, or do something to become the man in the middle. In the next videos, we're going to talk about a method or methods that you can use if you aren't the man in the middle. If the person maybe exists in a remote place that it's not possible for you to become the man in the middle. So we're going to be talking about social engineering. And social engineering is really big, and there's so many attacks that you can do because it all depends. Sometimes you don't even need any technical information to do that kind of attacks. So it all depends on your target and how you're gonna build a strategy to attack that target and maybe get some passwords or gain access to a certain computer system. So what we're going to do is, usually with information gathering, the most important step is gathering information. You need to gather as much information as you can about your target, about what websites they use, who is their friends, anything, any piece of information can become really, really useful to you when it comes to social engineering. So we're going to look at how to gather information about a specific person first. So all we're gonna have is just a name or a Facebook account, and we'll see what information we can gather based on that name. After that, we're gonna move and we're gonna start building a strategy, and we'll see how we can use all the information that we gathered to build a strategy in order to build an attack and gain access to the target computer system. And at the end, we're actually going to use some technical stuff to create our backdoor. We're going to make a backdoor that's acceptable by the target user that they'll probably use. And we'll also see how we can pretend to be one of their friends and get the target person to run the backdoor. So we're actually going to be asking them to run a specific file instead of the methods that we've seen so far, where the user voluntarily goes and updates their system or downloads a certain executable. Now in this lecture, I'd like to give you an overview of a tool that we're going to be using often in this course. This tool is great for information gathering, and it allows you to gather information just about anything. You can gather information about people, you can gather information about websites, computers, companies, phone numbers, everything, really everything you can think of. You can add it to this tool and try to extract information related to that entity. The tool is called Maltego, and it's going to become your best friend when it comes to information gathering. Now, like I said, the tool can be used to gather information about anything, but using the tool is the same. So it doesn't matter if your target is a website, if it's a person, if it's a phone number, if it's a company, it doesn't really matter. Using the tool is exactly the same, but only the information that you'll be getting is going to be different. So in this lecture, we're going to have a quick overview over this tool, and then we're going to be using it more in the next lectures. So first of all, to run the tool, just go to the More Applications right here, and then just type in Maltego. And you can see that the tool comes up in here, and it's called Maltego CE. The first time you run the tool, you'll be asked to log in with a username and a password. If you don't have one, you'll have to register through the wizard that you'll see. So just create a new username and new password, and then they'll send you an activation link to your email, activate your account, and then you'll be able to log in and use the tool. Now, as you can see, I've already logged in, and it's offering me to use one of the already made templates for gathering information. I'm not going to use any of that, so I'm just going to click on the cancel right here. In here, you can see that we have the home page for the tool. And from here, you can add more transformers to the tool. Basically, transformers are plugins that allow you to gather information about specific things. So you can literally just click on install on any of these, and it'll add basically more transformers or more things that you can do with Maltego. a lot of these extra transformers will ask you to log in with a username and a password or use a certain API. For now, we're just going to use the built-in transformers, and I'm just going to go on right here to create a new graph. And this is the main workplace of Maltego. So in the middle, we have our graph. So here is where you're going to be seeing your entities, where you're going to be seeing the information. In here, you'll have an overview of the graph. And in here, you'll have details about each entity in the graph. And in here at the bottom right, you'll be able to change the properties for each of these entities. All of this is empty now, and all of this is vague, I know, for you, but once we start using the tool, it'll start making sense straight away. On the left, we have our entities. They're organized in categories right here, depending on the type of these entities. So for example, if we click on the infrastructure, it'll allow you to add a domain name, you can add MX records, you can add URLs, or you can add a website. So you can literally just drag and drop the entity that you want. And now we have a website in the graph, and from here we can start gathering information about this website. There is a lot of different types of entities. So you can add a device from here. You can, for example, if we go to personal, you'll see that you can actually just add a person. So literally you can just add a person, give their first name, their second name, and then you'll be able to gather information about this person. You can also add a phone number, again, put the phone number and start gathering information about it. And one of the really cool categories right here is the social links, which will allow you to add Facebook entities. It'll allow you to add GitHub, Foursquare, LinkedIn, Instagram, and other social networks. And with that, once you add them, you'll be able to gather information about these entities. And obviously, this information will really help you when it comes to trying to exploit that person and hack into their system. Now, once you add the entity in here, if we click on the website, for example, I'm just going to go on the property view, and you'll see that in here I can modify the properties for this website. So for example, the first thing that we need to change is put the name of our target website in here. And once we do that, we can right click and select what type of information we want to gather. Now, I'm not gonna run any transformers in this video. We're gonna do it in next videos. For now, I'm just showing you a quick overview of the tool, how to add entities, how to run transformers, and what do we mean by all of these things. I know a lot of this is still a bit vague, but we're going to be using this tool a lot in the course, and it's going to become very easy for you. And as I said, you're going to be able to use it to gather information about anything, and it's really going to help you enhance your social engineering skills. Please note that right now you are using the free version of Maltego. The free version is great at gathering all sorts of information, but it doesn't allow you to use search engines and a few other features. That's why in the next lectures I'm going to be using the paid version. You can actually request a free trial from the link in the resources of this lecture. Just explain to them that you are a student and they'll happily give you trial access, which you can use to do everything that I'm going to show you in the next lectures. I know there are a lot of other free information gathering tools, but in my opinion, they do not even come close to Maltego. Maltego is the best at information gathering, and that's why I use it and I teach my students to use it. Think of it this way. If you're learning how to design, would you rather learn how to do it using Paint, which is free, or would you want to use the best design software such as Photoshop? In this video, I'd like to show you how to target a person. So we're going to start with literally just a name, just a person's name, and then we'll see how we can gather information about that person and then build up an attack strategy as well. And as we do that, I'm going to show you some more features of Maltego and how to configure a few more settings. So I'm going to start a new graph by clicking on the plus sign right here. I'm going to look for personal, and I'm going to look for a person. And right here we have a person entity. Now, as I said in this example, I'm going to assume that I have a target and I know their name. I know their first name and their second name. And again, that target is me, and my first name is Zaid and my second name is Sabi. So I'm going to go here on the property list. I'm going to set the first name, just double click it. I'm going to set it to Zaid, and then I'm going to set the surname to Sabi. And I'm just going to set this to capital. Doesn't really matter, but it just looks better. Now let's see what information can we gather about this entity. Again, as usual, all we have to do is just right click it and see what we can get. So I'm already in the Patirva category, and I'm gonna go to all transformers. And you can see we can get associated emails, we can transfer this, we're already a person, we can try to get a phone number, we can try to get a Twitter account. You can try all of these. For now, I'm gonna try to get a website or websites for this person. Now this is gonna ask you if you want to look for a specific domain name. I'm gonna assume that I know nothing, so I'm just gonna put a space in here, in both entries. So that just means look up for any websites that are associated with this person. Now you can see that we managed to get a number of websites right here. And all of these websites are associated with Zaid Sabi. Now that doesn't really mean that these websites are actually associated with your target, because there could be another person named Zaid Sabi. So you'll have to go on each one of these and see which one is actually related to that person. For example, if we click on the Facebook here, I'm going to double click it to see what information is there. And I'm going to go on the properties. And you'll see that we have the Facebook URLs that are associated with that person, with that name. Now I'm going to copy all of these, and I'm just going to put them in a text file so we can read them better. And you can see we have 3 profiles. Now, in a real life situation, you should be going into each of these profiles and see which one is actually related to your person. I'm not going to do that because the 3 of them are actually not related to me at all. So this is really not useful, and you'll just move in this case, you'll just come back, move into the next entity and see what's useful. And I highly recommend you delete the ones that are not useful, because they'll just make it harder to look through things. So you can just click it, press delete, and that'll delete it for you. Now the LinkedIn profile right here, again, you can double click it and see which profile it links you to. But again, it's not my own profile, and you can see that once you actually go to the URL. So for now, I'm just going to delete that. And you can see the rest of the stuff in here is actually all related to me. So it's all related to your target, and you can try and double click each one of them, go to the properties, look for the URL and open it in your browser. When you do that, you'll get the information that's related to that person, and hopefully it'll help you to form some sort of an attack strategy or help you get even more information. For now, because I've already looked on all of them, I'm going to focus on one of them, which is the Udemy link. So the information related to me on Udemy. I'm going to double click this like we did before. And I'm going to go on properties. And you can see that we have a URL or a description here. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put it in my text file right here. And I'm just going to copy the URL and open it in my browser right here. So you can see that this URL is related to our target person, and you can see that it's leading us to a course that's taught by myself. Now, this is not really useful. You can see that the target person is teaching online courses, whatever, not very useful. But if we go back and look at the other URL, so this had 2 URLs. If I scroll back to the left, we can see we have the first URL right here. And this URL is my profile URL. So I'm going to copy it again and paste it in the browser. And you can see this is showing us the profile for the target person. You can see that it's the same name. You can see their picture, so you know this is your target. You can see a description about what they do, but you probably already know that. But you can see some useful stuff. For example, you can see that they used to work with a company called iSecurity. So again, you can go to what we did previously, research iSecurity, add their website as a target, and then gather all the information that we were able to do, and then use that to build up a strategy against Zaid. Now we're not going to do that because we've already done something like that. So we're going to try to see what other information we can get. What's really useful in here, we can see that the person is sharing a few links. So they're sharing their YouTube channel, they're sharing their LinkedIn profile, they're sharing their Facebook, and they're sharing their own blog. All of these, you can go ahead and browse all of these things to gather more information about that person. Now, you need to keep in mind that I'm setting my targets to myself, which is an aware person about computer and information technology. And even the target I targeted in my previous video, iSecurity, it's an information technology company. And even with that, we were able to gather so much information. So when you're targeting normal companies or normal people, it will be so much easier to get effective information. So right now, if you actually go look at the YouTube, look at the LinkedIn, and look at the Facebook, you really won't get much. Like even if you click on the Facebook, you'll see the Facebook won't lead you to anything. You need to log in. And even after logging in, you won't get too much useful information. What's useful in my case is if we go on the blog. And we're going to go to the About. And what's useful in this is we have the email address of the target person and we have their Twitter account. So these information were not included on Udemy. And now we have two really useful pieces of information. So in the next video, we'll see how we can use this information to gather even more info about our target and hopefully be able to build up an attack strategy. Right, so now we have the email address of the target person and we have their Twitter account. So let's start with Twitter and see what we can get from that. So I'm gonna open the Twitter account for the target person right here. I'm gonna copy the link. And we're gonna come here and we're gonna add a Twitter entity. So I'm just going to move all of this to the side. And we're going to add a Twitter entity from the social network category. The problem here is you'll see that there is a tweet entity, but there is no Twitter entity. But Maltego actually has an entity for Twitter. It's just not being shown in here. And that's why I said I want to spend more time using Maltego with you to show you how to access these settings. So we're going to go to entities. We're going to go to manage entities. And right here, you can add all of these entities. So all of these entities are not added to the palette to the left in here. So if you see something in here that's interesting to you, you can just click on it. So the one I'm interested in right now is the Twitter affiliation, the membership of the Twitter social network. I'm going to click on the three little dots here. I'm going to go on advanced settings. And I'm going to check this box which says palette item. Now if I click on OK and close this, you'll see that I have a Twitter entity showing up in here. So again, I'm going to use this as normal. I'm just going to drag and drop it. I'm going to set the name of it here. So that's going to be myself, which is Zaid. And we're going to put the URL in here. So that's the URL of the profile. And I've already copied that, so it's this one. And my user ID is Zaid ALQ. So I'm going to put that in here. And we're good to go. Now we can gather information about this person based on their Twitter account. So I'm going to right click it and see what we can get. So we can get their tweets. We can see the tweets that they sent to people. We can transfer this to person. we can get more details, we can get the followers. What I really want to get in this is to get their friends so that I can actually target them through their friends. So again, I'm just going to click on the play button here. And this particular transformer requires you to log in to Twitter. So as you can see now, Maltego is telling me that I have to log into Twitter to be able to gather information about this person. So I'm going to click yes, I'll log in, no problem. And then I'm going to click on this sign in right here. And I'm just going to log in with a username and a password. So I'm going to actually use a different account than the one that we're gathering information about. And now it's asking me, do I want to authorize this app? I'm going to say yes, authorize it, no problem. And that's it. Now we're logged in to Maltego. I'm going to go back to Maltego. And you can see that it's telling me I can sign out using this button. So now I'm logged into it. And if I close this, the search will start. So it's now starting to look for friends on Twitter of Zaid. And as you can see now, I managed to get the people that are friends with Zaid. And we can see some really interesting stuff. Now, these are all just websites, so they're not really very useful. We can go ahead and pretend to be a person from these websites, and there is a high chance of Zaid to respond to it, but it's not as good as using the people. So I'm actually going to delete these websites. I'm just going to click on delete. And we're just going to organize these. And now we can see that Zaid has 3 friends. And again, we can use all of these friends, right-click them, and try to gather more information about them. This is good so far. And in the next lecture, we'll go back to where we were. So we gathered information now about the Twitter account. We'll see how to gather information about the email of that person. Okay, now let's see what can we get using the email of the target person. Now, if we hover over this, or if we just copy the email address, it will copy the email of the person, which is zaid@isecurity.org. So we're going to go back to our Maltego, and I'm going to put this to the side. And we're going to add a new entity, and this is going to be an email address. So we're going to go to personal, and we're going to look for email address, drag drop that, and set the email to the email of the target person from the properties. Again, I'm going to double click it and type zaid@isecurity.org. Now again, we actually got the email from here, from this icon right here, which leads us to the email of the person. So I didn't guess it myself or just get it out of nowhere. I actually managed to get it from only typing the name of the person. Now from this email, we're going to try and see what information we can get. I'm going to right click this as usual, and I'm going to transfer this to a domain name. Now, again, you can transfer this to a person, you can transfer this to a phone number, to URLs, to websites, but I'm not going to do all of that because I've already actually done this on my own time. And the useful one is if we transfer it to a person. So there is a lot of trial and error in this. You'll try things, it might not give you good information, delete the bad entities, and just keep going. So we can see that we got a domain name, which is isecurity.org. Now from this website, I'm going to try to get the email addresses associated to this website. We're going to go back and we're going to look for email addresses, as you can see here. So I'm just going to click on run all to run all the transformers that will get me email addresses associated with this domain. And if we go down, we have this domain protection email, which is not useful. So I'm just going to delete it straight away. And we have m.asker@isecurity.org, which is the same person as this. Now, another thing that we can do from the domain is transfer that to a website. And then from this website, we're going to look for email addresses associated with it. Great, now this is done. And if we go down, we can see now we got 2 not useful emails right here. So I'm gonna delete these 2. And we have 2 good ones. So we have Mustafa at albazi.com, which is the same as this person, which we got from Twitter. And we have the info at isecurity.org. Now again, you can just keep going and try to gather more information about this target. But for now, I think this is enough. So we have enough info to start building up an attack strategy for this person. Now in the next lecture, we'll discuss all the info that we gathered and we'll come up with ideas on how we can attack this person and hack into their system or into their accounts. Okay, now let's see how we can build up an attack strategy against our target, which is Zaid, a person named Zaid. Before I do any of that, I just want to do this in front of you. Just organize my workspace so that we can think of it properly and come up with ideas. So I'm going to delete all of these websites because they didn't really contain any useful information. So I'm just going to keep the only one that had useful information was Udemy, and that's the only one that I'm going to keep. And I'm going to move this here. And I'm going to put Zaid here on the top. And I'm just going to click and drag from here to the email address so that we'll know that that Zaid is associated with the email address. And I'm just going to click OK. And you can see now Zaid is associated with this email, which led us to iSecurity. And then we're actually going to just add another arrow from Zaid to my Twitter account. And again, so that just we know that this Twitter account is associated with this person. And we have an entity here of Udemy. We also know that Muhammad Askar right here has this email. So it has m.askar@isecurity.org. So we know that this person, this email is associated with this person. And the email is at isecurity.org, then this person is probably, or most definitely, is associated with isecurity.org as well. So, and if you actually do a Google search, you'll see that this guy is the admin of iSecurity. So again, we're just going to put an arrow from here to here. And I'm going to do the same with Mustafa because you can see we have his email there. And we'll also associate iSecurity with this person. And I'll just move him here and move this guy there. I'm gonna move him here. I know I made a mess out of this, but it's much easier when it looks clean. Okay, now this is much better. Now let's zoom in a little bit. Okay, perfect. So our target is Zaid, and we know Zaid uses Udemy and teaches courses there. We were also able to see Zaid's blog. We were able to see his YouTube, LinkedIn, and all that stuff already. Now that on its own can make me think of so many ways to attack Zaid. We can, looking at how active he is on Udemy, we can just pretend to be a person from Udemy. So we can pretend to be someone from the admins of Udemy and send him a program, for example, and tell him this is our new beta program that we're only given to special instructors. This way Zaid will feel privileged because he's getting something that other instructors are not getting, and he'll run that file. And once he runs that file is going to be a Trojan. So that file can be a backdoor or a keylogger or a program that will steal his passwords or allow us to do anything we want on the target computer. Now again, like I've said in this section, we're not going to be talking about the technical stuff. We'll talk about that in future lectures, and you'll know how to do this. So when I say we'll send him a file that looks like a normal file, we'll actually be able to do that. And this normal file, it'll be a normal program, but at the background, it'll do what we want it to do. We can also pretend to be from YouTube, from the blog, from WordPress, from Udemy again, and ask him to reset their password and give them a link that has a login page exactly the same as the login page of Udemy or YouTube. And once they put on their password, we'll actually get that password. So the possibilities are endless there, and we'll talk about ideas on how to do all of that later on. Looking at the connections that we can see here with iSecurity, we can see that this person has a lot of connections with this company or with this website. We can see that he has an email at isecurity.org. So again, this email is really useful because this is how we're going to be communicating with Zaid. You can also communicate with him through Udemy, obviously, as sending as messages, but I'm pretty sure that his friends, and yes, my friends, don't really communicate with me over Udemy. So if you want to target Zaid using his email, that's another way to do it. And we have his friends. So we have one of his friends right here, Muhammad. And you can see there's so many connections between him and Zaid. They're both friends on Twitter. They're both active on iSecurity. And they both have at isecurity.org email. So this makes you think they're not only work colleagues, they're probably friends as well. And exploiting this friendship, you can send stuff to Zaid asking him about anything really. You can show him pictures of a car that you want to buy, for example. You can send him PDFs because you know that both of these guys are interested about computer security. They're running a security website, and you can just send him a PDF saying, oh, look at my new ebook. And when they open the PDF, again, it'll run a file that you want it to run on the system. That'll give you gain access on Zaid's system. Now, again, when you send an email, you will be able to send an email that looks exactly as if it's coming from Muhammad. You can do the same with Mustafa. So you can send stuff to Zaid. You can send him stuff that they're interested in. You can send him just pictures. You can send him links to ask him to log in and do something. The possibilities, again, are endless when it comes to social engineering. Not only that, but let's say you tried everything and you couldn't hack into Zaid's system. You tried to pretend to be all of these people. You tried all the ideas that you can think of, and you couldn't reach Zaid's system. This is not the end of the world. What you could do is you can actually try to hack into one of his friends. So you can try to hack into Muhammad's computer. You can try to hack into Mustafa's computer. From there, try to get into their Facebook and then communicate with Zaid over Facebook from their Facebook account, because you can't really send a message that looks like it's coming from Muhammad on Facebook. We can only do that with emails. But again, you can hack into these guys' Facebook's accounts and then try to hack into Zaid. Why not hack into their accounts? Hack into iSecurity, because you know these people are admins. They have at iSecurity emails, and they're, even if you research their names, you'll see that they're admins. Why not hack into their computers, hack into iSecurity, and Zaid definitely browses iSecurity, so embed a backdoor in there, or change one of the files that's hosted into iSecurity into a backdoor, and then once Zaid downloads it or uses it, you'll be able to hack into his computer. Now again, don't get overwhelmed about all the information that I'm saying at the moment. We will take this step by step, and you'll learn how to send these fake emails, how to create these backdoors, how to create these keyloggers, and all that cool stuff in the next sections of this course. For now, I just wanted to show you how powerful Maltego is and how you can use it to gather information about anything really. Like, we started with just a name. Literally, we started with Zaid Sabi, and we were able to gather information about his websites, his blog, his YouTube, his friends, his emails, anything. Like, we literally profiled the whole person. And again, this person is a techie person, a person who is interested into information technology, so he's very careful with what to share, but we were still able to gather enough information to build up an attack strategy. If you do this against a normal person, you'll be surprised about the amount of information that you'll be able to gather about them. In this lecture, I'd like to show you how to combine the backdoor that we created before with any other file type. so that when executed, it'll display an image, a PDF, a song, or something that the target person is interested in. This way, you'll be able to social engineer them to run your backdoor, and they'll see something that they trust, but at the same time, your backdoor will run in the background. We're going to do this using a download and execute script, which will basically download the backdoor, download the file that the person expects, run the file that the person expects, and run the backdoor in the background. I'm going to include the download and execute script in the resources, but I already have it downloaded here. So you can literally just double click this and you'll see the code used inside the script. I programmed this in a way so that you can use it to download and execute anything and any number of files. So all you have to do is literally put the links or the URLs for the files in here and separate them by a comma. So you can put a URL, comma, and keep going. So you can use this to download and execute 2 executables, 3 executables, or any number of files you want. So I'm going to delete everything here. And I'm going to put the file that I want the target person to see. Now this file needs to be available online and uploaded on a direct link, so it can be downloaded from that link. For this example, I'm going to use an image, but you can use any other file type. You can get them to open a PDF or anything else that you want. So I'm just going to go on my browser, and I'm going to go on Google Images and just look for an image, and I'm going to look for a car. I'm going to take the car image and I'm going to click on view image here. And notice when I do that, we get the image itself through a direct URL right here. So you can see the end of the URL is .jpg. And when we access the image, you'll see that there is no ads around it, nothing, no HTML. All you see is just the file itself. So the files included in that script all have to have a direct URL. So I'm going to copy all of this and I'm going to paste it in here as the first URL. Now this is done. The next file that I wanted to be downloaded and executed is going to be my backdoor. So I'm going to put a comma and then I'm going to put a direct URL for my backdoor. And as we've seen before, that's stored at http 1020.14.2.13 evil files rev https 8080.exe. Now just to go over this point again, if I copy this URL and paste it in my browser, you'll see that I can download this. I can access the backdoor and download it without seeing any HTML, without seeing any timer or a download page. Literally, if I paste that URL in there, I can access the file and download it directly. You can see that there is no pages loaded, nothing. If I put the URL, I can download the file. This is very, very important. The script will not work if you don't use direct URLs. So, as you can see, the script is very simple. All we had to do is put the URL for the first file, and then we put a comma, which is very, very important again. So you have to separate the URLs by a comma. And then we put the URL for the second file. And like I said, if you want to download more files, if you want to download more backdoors or more evil files, all you have to do is just put another comma and put the next URL. Now this is not a programming course, so I'm not going to explain how I programmed the script. It's very simple. Basically, all it's going to do is it's going to download these files and then execute them, and I have the download function in here. Now everything is ready for me. I'm gonna save this and close it. I'm just gonna go back to my downloads to see the script, and now all we have to do is compile the script to an executable, and I'm gonna show you how to do that in the next lecture. Okay, now that we have our script ready, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to compile it to an executable and how to change its icon. The script is written in a scripting language called Autowit.
Autowit is pre-installed in the custom Kali. If you're not using the custom Kali, then you're going to have to manually install it from the link in the resources of this lecture.
So AutoWidth should be already installed for you by now. And now all we have to do is first rename this file and change the extension from a .txt to a .au3. Then we're going to go to all programs and look for compile. So I'm going to type in compile in here. And you'll see that I have the application that will compile AutoWidth scripts for me. So I'm going to click on that. And this is very, very simple. As you can see, the first thing that it asks you for is the source AutoWidth script. And that's the file that we made. So I'm just going to click on browse. And you'd have to navigate to downloads from here. But I'm already in downloads. So I'm just going to click on it and click on open. You can also set where it's going to be stored, but I'm just going to keep it to be stored at the downloads. And then you can see here, you can actually change the icon and use a custom icon. To do this, we'll have to first download an icon that represents our file. Now, if your file was a PDF, then you can just come into this website, which is called Icon Archive, and then download, just look for a PDF or MP3, and you'll see icons that represent these files. However, in my case, I'm trying to use an image as the file that the person sees, and Windows usually shows a preview of the image. It doesn't really show a specific icon for images. So what I want to do is I want to convert the GTR image to an icon. And to do that, I'm just going to go to Google and just Google image to ICO. Now, I've actually tried a few of them, and the best one that preserved the quality was this one, RW Designer. So you can try different ones on your own time. And what you want to do now is download the image that you want to make an icon of. And in my case, I want the same image that the person will see. So I'm just going to save it. And save it in the downloads, that's fine. And then in here, we're going to go to browse to select it. And we have the image here, double click. And then we're going to keep this to icon for Windows 7 or Vista, that's fine. And I'm just going to click on download. This will convert it to an icon for me, a .ico. So I can just click on OK to save it. And then I'm going to go back to my compiler. And we're going to set the option in here, the icon. I'm going to click on browse and select the icon that we just downloaded. Now again, in your case, you might have to navigate to root from here and then go to downloads. And then we have the icon in here, the one that we just created. I'm going to click on open. And that's it. All the options are set. So all we had to do for this is set the location for the script and then set the icon in here. I'm going to click on convert. And that has generated the file for me. Gonna click on OK, and I'm just gonna close everything. Now you can see we have the executable in here. So this is a .exe, and this one was the old script. So when you're sending to the target, you want to be sending the exe, the executable here. I'm just gonna rename this to GTR image, and then I'm gonna copy it. And I'm going to put it in my web server at var www html evil files. Before downloading this at the target computer, you want to listen for incoming connections from Metasploit. And I showed you how to do that before. So right now I'm only going to do show options to show you the options that I've set. And if you don't remember how to do this, then please go back to the listening for incoming connections lecture as I explained all of this in details. For now, I'm only going to do exploit to wait for incoming connections. Now everything's ready. I'm going to go to the Windows machine and download the file. So the file is going to be at http 1020.14.213 evil files gtr image.exe. I'm going to hit enter. And we're going to save the file. And as you can see, we see a file that has an icon, that's an image icon, which has a preview of the image, so it's very representative. And if we double click this file and run it, you see that we get an image that corresponds to the icon. But if we go to the Kali machine, you'll see that we got a Meterpreter session here. And basically now we hacked into the target computer and we can do anything that we want there. So just to confirm, I'm going to do sysinfo. And as you can see now, we're inside the target computer and we have full access to it. We managed to do this with a file that has an icon of an image and actually displayed an image to the target person. And like I said, this method can be used to combine our backdoor or evil file with any file that you want, with an image, with a PDF, with a song, or anything that the target person is interested in. If we look at the backdoor or the Trojan that we generated so far, we can see that it's very cool. First of all, it has an icon that represents a file that the target person is interested in. When it's executed, it shows a normal file that again the target person is interested in. So it shows an image or a PDF or anything that we want really. And at the same time, it's going to execute our evil code in the background, which will allow us to hack the target computer or do whatever that we want. The only problem with this file is if you look here at the end of the file, you can see that it's .exe. Now in most cases, you probably won't see the .exe because Windows would be configured to hide it. But if it's not hiding it, then it's obvious that this file is an executable because it ends with a .exe. So what I want to show you today is how to spoof this and change this to something that corresponds to the file. So if we're trying to make our backdoor look like a PDF, then you can make this look like a .pdf. If we're trying to make the file look like an image, then you want to make this look like a .jpg or a .png or an extension that represents the image. So in our case, we're trying to make it look like an image. So I'm going to try to make this end with a .jpg. To do that, we're going to use a right to left override character. And before I show you how to do that, I'm just going to rename this and just literally copy the name. I'm just going to go on rename and copy everything here. And I'm just going to paste it in my text editor so that when I'm modifying things, it's clear to you what I'm doing. Okay, now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to type the new file name that I want to use. And for the new file name, I'm not going to use GTR image. I'm just going to use GTR. Okay. And this is obviously going to have to be .exe. Now, instead of this exe, I actually want to have a .jpg. But that's not possible because if I do that, the file is not going to be an executable. So to do this, I'm going to try to get the text to be read from right to left using a right to left override character. So because the text is going to be read from right to left, we're going to type this extension after the file name, but we're going to spell it from right to left. So we're going to spell it as GPJ in here. So we're going to put GPJ. Again, this is just the extension that we want to use, but we're spelling it from right to left. So we're spelling it GPJ instead of JPG. Now what I want to do is I want to put a right to left character in here. So basically when I put that character in here, the text, anything that comes in after that character will be read from right to left. So all this is going to be flipped. And basically the file name is going to be called GTR.exe dot, and this is going to be read from right to left. So it's going to be .jpg. So let me do it and you'll see what I mean by that. So to get that character, you want to go here on the search and you just want to search for right to left override. And you can see we have it in here. And if you click on it, you'll just see a button that will allow you to copy that character. So I'm just going to click on copy and that will basically just copy the character for me. Now I'm going to come in here and again, once I paste it in here, anything that comes after that character will be read from right to left. So we're going to start in here and it's going to be read as exe.jpg. I'm going to put the cursor here. and I'm gonna paste. And as you can see, now the file name is called gtrexe.jpg. Now again, I'm gonna remove the character. Back to normal. If I paste it, everything is being read from right to left, and the file name is going to be called gtrexe.jpg. Now, when you're using a file name like this, in my case, it looks fine because I'm already using a name of a car which is called GTR. And if you're sending it to a person, they might think the exe is just a special edition of this car. If you're using this as a book or as something else, you want to think of a name that ends with ex. So for example, there's a lot of names, so you can think of reflex, hex, sex, and so on. Anything that ends up with an ex will be a good name to use in here. So I have my name now. I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to rename this. And that's it. And as you can see now, my file is called gtrexe.jpg. Now you can send this file the way it is to the target, but I don't want to send it like this because some recent browsers are removing the right to left override when downloading the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this to an archive. So I'm going to right click it and compress. And we'll just add this to an archive called gtr.jpg. And we have our archive here. This way, when the file is downloaded, the browser will not replace the right to left override. So we're all done now. I'm going to copy this, paste it in my evil files, and then we're going to go and download it from the Windows machine. Now, I'm actually already listening for incoming connections here. I've showed you how to do this before, so if you don't remember, please go back to that lecture. I'm going to go to the Windows machine. I'm going to go on my Firefox. And we're going to download the file, which is at http 1020.14.213. And the file name is gtrexe.zip. I'm going to save this. And in here, in our downloads, we see the archive. Now we're just going to uncompress it here. And as you can see now, if you compare this file to this one, you'll see that this one has an exe format. This one has a .jpg format. It has an image icon. And if we double click it, it'll actually show us an image, as you can see. But at the same time, it's going to execute my backdoor in the background. So if I go to the Kali machine, you'll see that I get a session from that computer. And just to confirm this, I'm going to do sysinfo. And as you can see now, I'm inside that computer and I have full control over it. We managed to do this using a file that looks and functions exactly like an image. And just like I said before, this method can be used to make the file look like any other file type, so you don't have to make it look like an image. You can use this method to make it look like a PDF, a song, a video, or anything that you want at all. You can use the download and execute payload to combine the backdoor with any file, and then use this method to change the file extension to any file extension you want.
In the previous videos, we learned how to create a Trojan by backdooring normal files, such as images, documents, songs, and so on, so that when executed, the user sees the normal file, but at the same time, our evil code gets executed in the background. So the challenge now is how to deliver this Trojan to the target. The first delivery method that we're going to talk about, and my personal favorite, is the mail delivery. Now, this delivery method, just like any other delivery methods, relies on the information that you gathered so far. So information gathering is very, very important when it comes to this. This delivery method is really handy because you can use it in so many scenarios. You can use it to deliver all the backdoors and the evil files that we've seen so far. You can use it to pretend to be a friend and contact your friend and tell him to download something. You can use it to pretend to be a website that the target website interacts with and pretend to be the admin of the other website and ask the target to do something. You can pretend to be a member of the support team that the target website uses and then ask them to change their password, for example, for the web server that they're using. You can use it to pretend to be a company that your target interacts with and tell them that there's a new update of your software that they already use and then get them to download and install a backdoor. So the possibilities are limitless really when it comes to mail delivery. In this lecture, I'm going to show you an example of targeting a person that's called Zaid. Zaid could be just a normal person that you want to hack. He could be a friend of a person that you want to hack, but you want to hack Zaid first and then hack to that person. He could be the admin of a website, or he could be an employee of a company. It really doesn't matter. What we're looking at in this lecture is hacking a person that's called Zaid. And then from there, you can leverage that person to hack into other systems or into other networks or into a different company. And I have the information that we gathered already in our information gathering lecture. And after we gathered everything, we managed to see that Zaid has a number of friends in here. And the same friends, we managed to see their emails here. And we managed to get Zaid's email, which is zaid@isecurity.org. So what we're going to do is we're going to pretend to be one of these guys. So m.askar@isecurity.org. And it's this person in here. His name is Muhammad Askar. So we're going to pretend to be that person. We're going to send an email to Zaid, and the email is going to look as if it's coming from this person. And then we're going to ask Zaid to download a file. Let's see how this works. And this is going to be a more realistic delivery method that you can actually use in real life. Now, there are a number of ways to do this. The easiest is just to go on Google and look for spoof emails online. You'll see a lot of websites that will allow you to do this. The only problem with these websites is the email that you're going to send will end up in the spam directory of the target person. So it will not be delivered into their inbox, which is not great. The main reason for this is because these websites are public and a lot of people use them for spamming, mail servers such as Google, Hotmail, and Yahoo have blacklisted these servers, and any email that comes from the servers that these websites use will be marked as spam. Therefore, in order to bypass this, you can either use your own server if you already have a web hosting plan, or you can sign up for a free web hosting plan and use that to send your fake emails. Or an even better solution is to sign up for an SMTP or a mail server. Now, again, there are a number of websites that offer this. A lot of them are paid, but with the paid websites, you'll actually get really good results because they are used by actual marketers and by actual companies to send emails. So spam is never sent through these servers. If you look through Google for a free SMTP server or a free mail server, you will find some websites, and an example of this one right here. And this is also a really good website because it is a paid website, but they offer a free plan which we can use to send our fake emails. Again, this website is designed for email marketing and for actual companies to communicate with their customers. So when you send emails through the servers of this website, they will not be marked as spam because it's very rarely used for spam. So we're going to sign up with this website. Input my email, and I'm going to set a password and create the account. Now, I'm going to go to the email that I used when I signed up, and you'll see that we got a welcome message, and I'm going to confirm my email address to activate my account. Now it's asking me for more questions, so it's asking for my first name, last name, company name, phone number, company website, and so on. You don't have to fill this very accurately. I'm just going to use any information for it. Just make sure you put a correct phone number because they will send a verification code to this phone number. Now it's asking us for the verification code. I have it here on my phone number. And finally, it's asking us to select the plan. Like I said, the free one is fine unless you want to send a lot of emails on the same day. And that's it, we're good to go. In the next lecture, I will show you how to use the SMTP servers offered by this website in order to send fake emails. Okay, so now that we signed up with this service, in this lecture, I'm going to show you how to use the SMTP servers offered by this service in order to send fake emails. So first of all, we're going to go on the transactional in here, and you'll see that we have all of the information that we need to authenticate with the SMTP servers offered by this website in order to send the fake emails. So right now, we just need to use a program in order to authenticate and then send the fake emails. So in Kali, we're going to use a program called Send Email. And because this is the first time we're using this program, it's always a good idea to run the program with the -- help argument to see how to use it and all of the available options. So scrolling up, you can see the main usage is Send Email. We're using the -f argument, and then you set the options. Now, before doing this, the first thing I want to do is set the username and the password using the -xu and the -xp arguments. So our command is going to be send email -xu to give the username. And if we go up, we have the username here, which is johnwick70@gmail.com in my case. So I'm going to copy it and paste it here. Next, we need to set the password. We're going to use the -xp to do that. And again, if we scroll up, we have the password here. So copy and paste it there. Next, we'll need to specify the server. So we're going to use the -s option. And as you can see, you first give it the server, followed by the port. An example is this. So if we go up, you can see that our server is this one right here. So again, Control-C to copy it. And our port is going to be 587. So going down, we're going to do -s to specify the server. We're going to give it the server that we just copied. And I'm going to type : followed by the port. And as we've seen before, the port is 587. So I'm going to type 587. So far we haven't composed the email yet. All we're doing is we're authenticating with the email server. So this step is very similar to what you do when you go to gmail.com, for example. The first thing that you get asked for is your username and a password, and only once you log in, you can start sending emails. So this is what we're doing right here. We first logged in with our username, password, and server. And now that we're logged in, we can go ahead and start composing our email. Now, the cool thing about this is not an ordinary email client. We can actually set the from email. And when the email is delivered, it's going to appear as if it's sent from the from email that we pick in here. Now, from our information gathering stage, we discovered that our target's email is zaid@isecurity.org. And we discovered that this target, Zaid, is linked to another person named Mohammed Asker, and his email is m.asker@isecurity.org. So when picking this from email, you want to make sure that you pick an existing email, something that exists, and you want to make sure that you pick an email that your target usually receives emails from. This will increase the chances of your target opening the email, and it will also ensure that the email will be delivered in the inbox and not in the spam. So I'm going to set my from email to m.asker@isecurity.org. Next, we're going to use the -t option to specify the email that we want to send this email to. And from our information gathering stage, we know that the email of our target is zaid@isecurity.org. Next, we're going to use the -u argument to specify the title of the email. So I'm just going to say, check out this car. And then we're going to use the -m option to specify the message body. Now, when specifying the title and the message body, you want to keep in mind the person you're pretending to be, the target person, and the relationship between the two. If you're pretending to be a boss or a colleague, then you might want to keep these more formal. But in my case, I'm pretending to be a friend, so I'm going to keep my title and the message casual, and I'm just going to say, hey man, check out this car, I'm thinking of buying it. And then we want to give him a link to download the Trojan that shows a picture of a car that we created before. So you can upload your Trojan to any file sharing service. I chose to upload it to Dropbox, and I've already logged into my Dropbox account in here. If you don't know how to upload stuff to Dropbox, you simply click on the upload in here, you select the file, and then the file will be uploaded in here. So I'm not going to show you how to do that. It's very simple and there's no point of wasting time on it. I already have the Trojan that shows a picture of the image right here. So I'm just going to click on share to get the link for it, and I'm going to click on copy link. Now let me show you this trick. If I just go in a new tab and paste my download link, you'll see that the file will not be automatically downloaded. I'll first go to Dropbox and then the user will have to click on download to download it. But if we modify the URL and just put a 1 in here instead of the 0, and if I hit enter, you'll see it'll automatically download the file for the user. And this is exactly what I want. Therefore, I'm just going to go down now and paste the file in here. And that's it. Now, if we hit enter, this message will be sent and delivered to the target, but it's going to say m.asker@isecurity.org in here, while actual messages that come from this person display the person's name. As you can see in here, they will actually say Muhammad Asker. But don't worry about this. In the next lecture, I'm going to teach you how to use advanced options to do that and set the sender name to anything that you want. Now, as shown in the previous lecture, setting the from email might not be enough to make our fake emails look identical to real emails. Therefore, in this lecture, I'm going to teach you how to set the sender name so that our fake emails look identical to real emails sent by real people. To do that, we're going to have to use advanced options. So coming back to the terminal window, if you look in here, you can see we can use the O argument to specify advanced options. And the advanced option that we want to use is a message header right here. So I'm going to copy this, and in our terminal, I'm going to do -O to specify an advanced option. And the advanced option that I want to set is a message header. And this message header is going to be the from header. And I want to set this to the name that I wanted to appear in here. So in my case, I wanted to say Muhammad Asker. Then we're going to put the from email inside the greater and smaller signs. So again, the from email in my case is m.asker@isecurity.org. And that's it, we're done. Now, before hitting enter and sending this message, I'm going to clear the screen, and I just want to walk you through the command just to make sure that you understand what we're doing. So first of all, we're using a program called Send Email. This is the email client that we're using in order to first authenticate with our email server and then send the email. Then the command is split into 2 stages. The first stage is where we authenticate with the email server. Like I said, this is similar to what you do when you go to Gmail. First, you have to log in, and this is what we're doing here. We're using the -XU argument to specify the email. We're using the -XP argument to specify the password, and -S to specify the server. So if I go up, we got all of this information from the server that we signed up for. So we got it from here. Now, once we log in and authenticate, the next stage is to actually send the email, to compose the message. So we're using the from argument to specify the from email. We're using the -T argument to specify the email we want to send the email to. We're using -U to specify the title, -M to specify the message body. And finally, we used an advanced option to set the message header, and we set the message header to whatever we want to appear beside the email title when the email is delivered in the inbox. So we're ready to send this. I'm going to hit enter. And perfect. As you can see, it's saying email is sent successfully. And I'm actually already listening for incoming connections in here in my multi-handler. So let's go to the target. And as you can see, we have a new email. It's coming from Muhammad Askar. So exactly like a legitimate email coming from this person. We can see the subject like we said it. And we can see the body. Now, if we go inside, again, we have a thumbnail of this person. It's showing his name. It's showing his email. It's showing his picture. So it looks legit. It looks like a proper message sent from this person. Now, this person is a friend of mine, and we tailored the message so that it appears as if it's coming from a friend. If I click on the link, you'll see the file will automatically start downloading. Dropbox is not asking us if we actually want to download this. So I'm going to click OK to download it. It's going to go in my downloads. So if we open the downloads, right click and uncompress this, we'll have the GTR with the image with the proper extension like we've seen before. And if we double click it, we'll see the picture of the car that my friend is trying to buy. So everything looks legit so far. But if we go back to the Kali machine, you'll see that we got a connection from the target and we basically gained full access to their computer. So if we do there, you'll see all the directories and basically we can run any system command. Now, it is very important to note that this will only work if the domain that you are spoofing or setting the sender to does not implement proper email authentication. With that being said, many statistics suggest that over 80% of organizations around the world do not implement proper email authentication, and therefore you'd be able to impersonate these organizations and send emails and make them appear as if they're sent from these organizations. Now, to check if a domain can be spoofed, you can easily go to this website right here. And all you have to do is put the domain that you want to spoof or impersonate in here. So for example, if we put zsecurity.org, which is our company domain, you'll see that we have no DMARC records. It's telling us that nothing is detected, and therefore we can actually send emails and make them appear like they're sent from any email at zsecurity.org. And we did that on purpose to show you in this lecture. So this is very, very dangerous. And if you own or manage a domain that is not implementing this properly, then you should really fix this, because this means that hackers can spoof emails and make them seem as if they're sent from your domain or your organization. Now, the main thing that you want to keep in mind when it comes to this method is that this method is generic. So it works against Windows, Linux, OS X, Android, doesn't really matter. The only thing that you want to make sure is the file that you're sending to the target should work on their target operating system. And I actually cover generating backdoors and credential harvesters and all this cool stuff for all operating systems in my social engineering course. So if you're interested in that, then check out the bonus lecture, the last lecture of this course, because it includes links to all of my other courses, including the social engineering course. In the previous lecture, we've seen how to use an SMTP server to spoof emails and make them appear like they're sent from any other email address we want. I also mentioned in the previous lecture that there is another way of doing this, and that is using a web hosting. Web hosting is simply a service that allows us to host files on the internet. Therefore, we can use it to host our own website, we can use it to share files, or we can even use the server resources to send emails, as I'm going to show you in this lecture. So as you can see, learning how to set up and use a web hosting can be useful in many scenarios, and you can actually use it to do much more than what I'm going to show you here. Now, if you look on Google, you'll find a lot of free web hosting providers. Unfortunately though, none of them allow you to send emails. That's not really a big problem because even paid web hosting plans are very, very cheap. You can look online for the cheapest, And you can use any provider you want because the steps that I'm going to show you will work with any provider. But right here, I have a web hosting provider called DreamHost. They are pretty cheap and they work well. So if we click on Get Started in here, you'll see the cheapest plan is $295 per month. So we're going to click on Sign Up. I'm going to set this to monthly, and you'll notice the price will actually increase slightly. So now it's $5 per month instead of $295 if you paid for a year, but that's fine. And I'm going to say choose a domain later. You'll only really need to use a domain if you're hosting your own website. The domain is what you see here on top when it says, for example, dreamhost.com or zsecurity.com. But in our case, we don't need that. So we're just going to say choose a domain later. And we're going to select our payment method. I'm going to pay with PayPal. Next, you have to put the billing address. Now, you don't have to put correct information in here. You can put whatever you want. So I'm just going to fill this randomly. Next, we have the account setup. Make sure you put a valid email in here because they will send you a confirmation. So I'm going to use my own email and put a first name, last name, phone number. Again, it doesn't have to be real. We're going to uncheck this to not receive marketing. We don't want WordPress installed, so we're unchecking this. We don't want protection, so we're unchecking this. And we don't want the email service that they provide, so we're unchecking this. Because we're actually going to rely on PHP to send the email using the mail function in PHP. So we're basically unchecking everything. We're going for the most basic plan they have. And we're just going to click on Submit Order. Now the sign up might be slightly different if you're using a different provider, but the steps are very simple and it's more or less the same. It's asking us to set a password now. And we're going to continue to our control panel. And perfect, now we have a web hosting plan that we can use to host our own websites, host our own files if you wanted to deliver backdoors and such to your targets, or you can use it to send fake emails, as I'm going to show you. Now, again, using this dashboard might be slightly different depending on the provider that you have, but you'll notice that the steps are pretty much the same. You want to first access your management page for the website. So you can see in here, it's given us this button called Manage My Websites. We can see this is our website right now, but it's saying it's unavailable because it's still being set up. So we're going to give it its time to set up and we'll resume the video once it's ready. Okay, so now that the website is ready and we can see a preview of it here, we can simply click on it to actually access it. As you can see right now, this is the URL for our website. And you can see it's a simple website that has nothing that tells you should go to the admin to add stuff to this website. So back to the management page, we're going to click on Manage. And depending on which provider you have, you want to look for the file manager. So in my case, you can see in here, it's saying Manage Files. And if we click on the Manage in here, we're going to get our file manager. From here, you want to navigate to a directory that is called public HTML or a directory that has the name of your website as we have in here. So this is actually the name that I signed up with. It's gibberish, but that's what I actually set it to. So we're just going to click on it. This is the directory where you should upload your files. So if you're hosting a website, you should upload the website files here. Or if you're sharing files, then you should upload them in here as well. Or in our case, we want to send fake emails. So we're going to upload the PHP file that we're going to use to send the emails to this location. Now the file is in the resources of this lecture. So download it. I have it already downloaded in here. And as you can see in the file name, you're going to have to rename this file to send.php. Because I can't upload PHP files, that's why I uploaded it in TXT format. So we're going to go up again, and you're going to need to find the upload button. In my case, it's in here. I'm going to click on it, upload file, and select the file that I want to upload, which is in my downloads, and it's this file right here. I'm going to double click it. And we have the file right here, send.php. So all we have to do now is go to the website, and I have it opened in this tab in here. And we're going to put a / after the website name. and type the file name, which is send.php. So using this is very simple. All you have to do is set the email that you want to send this email to. And just to switch it up, I'm going to send this to my other email, which is zaid@zsecurity.org. Next, we're going to set the from email. This is the email that this email will appear like it's coming from. So again, just to change things around, we're going to set the from email this time to adrian@zsecurity.org. Now, again, when you're setting the from email, make sure that you set it to an email that actually exists, and make sure that your target actually receives emails from this email and communicates with them. This will ensure that the email will land in the inbox, and it'll also increase the chances of your target of opening the email and interacting with it. Adrian works with me in the same company. We frequently exchange emails. Therefore, this is a really good from email to spoof. The next field is the name field. This is similar to the from header that we set manually in the previous lecture. So let me go to my inbox to show you where this name shows up. Right here, I have an actual email that I got from Adrian, and this part right here is the name. So whatever you set in here will be displayed in that part. If you don't set that up, it'll automatically be set to the email, and it'll appear like this one, which is not identical to the real one that I can get from him. So we're going to set this to Adrian's name. We're going to set the subject, and let's just set the subject of this to test. And we're just going to set the body to this is another email spoofing test. Now, I don't really need to send a backdoor in this. The whole point of this lecture is to show you another method of spoofing emails. So now that we're done with everything, I'm going to click on submit to send the email. And as you can see, it's saying email sent. So that means the email got sent and delivered. So let's go to the inbox. Let's see if it looks identical to the real one. And let's see if it actually gets delivered into our inbox. So right here, I have my inbox. And as you can see, the bottom one is an actual email that I got from Adrian. This is a real email from Adrian. You can see the name here, correct? Similar to the name here. If I stay hovering on the real email, as you can see, I'll get a card that shows his name, his email, and his phone number. And if I hover over the spoofed one, again, I get the exact same card because it's pulling this from my contacts. So it's automatically populating this. If I go on the real email right here, again, you can see this is a real email by him. You see the name, you see the profile, and you see the from is from Adrian Bud. Now, let's go to the spoofed one. Again, you have the picture, you have the name, and if we look in here, you have the correct email, adrianbud@zsecurity.org. The only part that might look a little bit suspicious is the fact that it's saying via this. But a lot of people are not going to pay attention to this, and this is only displayed in Gmail. So we tested with Live. This doesn't even show up on it. And even with Gmail, we have the correct profile picture, we have the correct name, we have the correct email if you look in here, and we even have the correct phone number. So this is just another method to show you how to spoof emails. In case the previous method didn't work, or if you just didn't like it, you can try this one. Again, like I said, you can use any web hosting provider. You do not have to use this one that I used. You can try the free ones, you can try the paid ones, and like I said, you will get better results with the paid ones. The steps are pretty much the same. The only difference might be the sign up process and the process of uploading the file to the website. But the idea is the same. You sign up with a web hosting provider, you upload the send.php file, you browse the .php file from your web browser, and you use it to send the email. In this lecture, I'd like to introduce you to a really cool framework called Beef. Beef is short for the Browser Exploitation Framework. It allows us to run a number of attacks on hooked browsers that would allow us to further exploit the target system to steal passwords or even gain full access or full control over the system. So right here, I'm at my Kali machine. And we can go ahead and start Beef. And to do that, I'm going to click on all my applications. I'm going to type Beef. And I'm going to click on the first icon in here, Beef Start. You can use the Beef Stop to stop it, but right now we just want to start the framework, so we're going to click on the Start. Now, because this is the first time we run the framework, it's asking us to set a password for the default user. So go ahead and pick any password you want. And note, when you type the password, you will not see the characters on screen. This is a security feature so that the people around you will not see your password. So right now I actually typed my password, but you can't see anything on screen. I'm just going to hit enter. And then it will automatically start the Beef framework for me, and it will automatically start Firefox and go to the web interface that we can use to access Beef and control the hooked browsers. As you can see, the first thing that it'll ask us is a username and a password to log in to this web interface. The default user is Beef, B-E-E-F, and the password is the password that we just set in terminal. I'm going to hit enter to log in. And as you can see, we have the main user interface of Beef. The main thing you can see here on the left is the online and the offline browsers. In the online browsers, you'll see the browsers that are hooked to Beef right now that you can control. And in the offline browsers, you'll see the browsers that you previously were able to control. So browsers that you previously hooked to Beef. Now, in order to hook a browser to Beef and be able to control it and run commands on it, you have to get that browser to execute a specific JavaScript code. So if we go back to the terminal window here that started Beef for us and just scroll up, you'll see that it's given us the JavaScript code that we need to use to hook browsers to Beef. As soon as this piece of code gets executed on a web browser, you will see that web browser here in the online browsers, and you'll be able to execute a lot of really cool commands that will allow you to show fake login pages, it will allow you to show fake updates, and even gain full control over the target system. Now, because Beef uses JavaScript, it'll work on any web browser that supports JavaScript, regardless of what device this web browser is running on. So it'll basically work on all modern browsers. So it'll work against phones, tablets, smart TVs, all operating systems used on PCs such as Linux, Windows, OS X, and so on. Literally any browser that can run JavaScript will be able to run this code, and therefore we'll be able to hook that browser to Beef and do all of the cool things that you will learn in the next lectures. So right now, it really depends on you and your imagination on how you're going to get this piece of code to run on a web browser. If you're able to become the man in the middle, you can do DNS spoofing and redirect requests to a page that contains this hook code. Or you can inject this JavaScript in any web page that the target loads using the JavaScript injection methods that we learned once you become the man in the middle. You can also exploit an XSS vulnerability and inject this code in a vulnerable web page, and you will learn how to do that in the website hacking section. Or you can use social engineering and social engineer a target into loading a web page that contains our hook code. So all you'll need to do is think of a way to get a target to load a page that contains the hook JavaScript code. Now in this lecture, I'm going to show you a very basic hook method that is really good for us to make sure that our system is working as expected. And this very page can also be used with method number 1 and method number 4, because we're going to have a HTML page that contains the hook code. Therefore, you can either DNS spoof targets to this page or social engineer them to this page. And once they load this page, the hook code will be executed on their browser, and therefore they will be hooked to Beef and will be able to run all of the commands that Beef allow us to run. So let's go back to Beef, and like I said, this is the code that we want our target browsers to load or execute. So I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to go and open my file manager, and I want to go to my web root. So you can either press Ctrl L from your keyboard or click in here at the path bar and just press the /. This will open a path text box where you can type the path that you want to go to, and I want to go to var www.html. Now, as we learned before, this is the location where the files for your web server are stored, and the index.html is the file that gets loaded by default when someone loads your IP in their web browser. So I'm going to right click the index.html, and I'm going to choose to open it with a text editor. And I'm simply going to remove all of this and paste the hook code in here. There's one thing that I want to modify is the IP in here. I'm going to replace this IP with the IP of my Kali machine. As we learned before, you can get the IP using the ifconfig command. So I'm not going to do it right now. You should already know this by now. So I know my IP is 10.20.14.207. And that's it. We're ready to go. So if anybody now loads my IP address, which is 10.20.14.207, I will have a web server working on it, which will load the index.html by default. And when this file is loaded, it'll load the Beef hook code, and it'll hook that browser to Beef, which will allow me to run a number of really cool commands. Now, before loading this page, we need to start our web server. And as we learned before, we can do this by doing service Apache 2 start. And now my Apache web server is running. And if I go to my Windows machine in here and simply just go to the address of my web server, which is 10.20.14.207. Now, as you can see, we'll get a blank page. That's fine because our page contains nothing but the code. You could actually have a proper HTML page and just put the hook code at the end or at the start. But this will do for testing for now. And if we go back here and go to the Beef interface, if we look at the online browsers, you'll see we have the IP address of my target, which is 10.20.14.206. This is the IP address of the Windows machine. And right now, if I click on it, you'll see I'll have a number of tabs in here, which will allow us to do various things. In the home, in the details, you'll see we have information about the browser of the target. For example, you can see that it doesn't have a VLC plugin installed. It supports WebSocket. If you scroll down, you can see the user agent, which is Mozilla 5. It's running on Windows NT, 64-bit architecture. Again, if you keep going down, you can see the cookies. You can see the host name. You can see the screen size and a lot of other information that can be useful when it comes to exploiting a target. At the logs tab in here, you'll see logs of all the events that happened in the browser. And if you execute commands, you'll see logs in here for these commands. The commands tab is the one that we're going to be using the most in the next lectures. This will allow you to run various commands on the target. Like I said, you can run information gathering commands. You can run commands to inject other JavaScript codes. You can run commands to steal passwords using fake logins. You can run fake updates and get your target to download a backdoor and hack their computer. There are a lot of really cool things that you can do, and I will walk you through some of the best ones in the next lectures. In the proxy tab, you can configure and use a hooked browser as a proxy. The XSS raise will show you if the hook page contains any XSS vulnerabilities, and the network tab will give you an overview of the current network. So right now you can see we have the target running Windows, we have his browser which is hooked to Beef, to us, and then from here we'll be able to, like I said, launch a number of really cool commands that can be used to do so many things and further exploit the target system. Once done with using Beef, you can click on Logout to log out, and then go to your All Applications, look for Beef, and click on Beef Stop to stop the service from running in the background. So that's it for this lecture. I just wanted to give you a quick overview on Beef, and in the next lectures we'll see how we can use it to steal credentials, get screenshots, gather information, and even gain full control over hooked browsers. In the previous video, I showed you how to hook a target to Beef using a basic hook method using a HTML page. In this lecture, I want to show you a better way of doing this if you are able to intercept connections. So, as I showed you in the network hacking section, we can inject JavaScript code in the target browser if we are able to become the man in the middle. And since Beef uses JavaScript code to hook targets, we can actually use the exact same method we learned earlier to inject Beef's hook code in every website the target loads. This will allow us to hook targets and keep them hooked without directly communicating with them. So I have Beef already running in here, and like I said, in order to hook targets, we're gonna have to inject Beef's JavaScript code into the browser that they load. So to do this, I've included custom JavaScript code in the resources of this lecture. So first of all, download it from there. I already have it downloaded here. And before using this, I'm gonna double click it to modify it. So as you can see, it's actually very simple code. It's gonna create a new element in every page, which will load Beef's code, and it'll append this element to the head of the page. So the only thing you need to modify right here is your IP, and you want to replace that with the IP of the Kali machine that is running Beef. As you know, you can do ifconfig to get your IP. I already know what my IP is, so I'm gonna put it here, 10.20.14.207. So I'm gonna save this, Ctrl S, and quit it, Ctrl Q. Now our JavaScript code is ready, and all we have to do is literally inject it exactly as I showed you before when we injected the simple alert JavaScript code. So all we have to do right now is put the location of this file in the HSTS hijack applet. I'm going through this quickly because I spent a full lecture showing how to use this, so if you don't remember how JavaScript injection works, please go back and revise that lecture. So I'm gonna go to the location where I have the HSTS hijack applet. This is the modified one, the one that I included in the resources of that lecture, not the one that comes with BetterCap, because as I mentioned, the one that comes with BetterCap does not work as we want it. So what I want to do right now is modify the HSTS hijack.cap file. As you know, if we want to inject a custom JavaScript code, we have to modify the payload in here. And as you can see, it's already injecting a JavaScript code called keylogger.js. So we want to add our custom JavaScript code. So I'm going to add a comma, followed by the location of the file that I want to inject, which, as you know, I have my file in downloads in here, and it's called injectbeef.js. So first of all, I'm actually gonna add a *: to say that I want to inject this file into every page the target loads. And then I'm gonna put the full path to my JavaScript file, which is, as I showed you, in root, downloads, injectbeef.js. It's as simple as that. I'm gonna save it, Ctrl S and quit, Ctrl Q. And perfect, so that's done, and all we need to do right now is run BetterCap to inject this file into every website the target loads. So we're gonna run BetterCap using the exact same command that we used to use before. We're setting the interface to the interface that's connected to the target network, and I'm giving it a caplet to load, and the caplet that I want to load is the spoof caplet, because as I showed you earlier, this caplet will run an ARP spoofing attack, putting me in the middle of the connection. And perfect, as you can see, the caplet runs with no errors. So right now I should be intercepting connections. And the next thing I want to do is to load the HSTS hijack applet, so I can bypass HTTPS, partially bypass HSTS, and inject the JavaScript code that we just configured.
the code that's in the inject beef JavaScript file. So I'm just gonna type HS and press tab to autocomplete, hit enter, and everything runs with no errors. So that's perfect. Now I should be intercepting all the data that's sent and received by the target, and because we configured BetterCap to inject the hook code in every page that loads, we should be able to hook our target to beef as soon as they load any website. So let's go to the target computer, and it's actually always a good idea to test against normal HTTP pages first, against the simplest case, but I've already tested this before and I know it works, so I'm gonna go ahead and test it against a HTTPS page straight away. It's also a good idea to remove the browsing data, but I've already done that, so I'm just gonna go to stackoverflow.com. As you can see, the page is loading in normal HTTP even though it uses HTTPS by default. That means our HSTS hijack is downgrading HTTPS to HTTP, and it should have also injected my inject beef code. So let's go to beef to confirm and see if we hooked the target. And perfect. As you can see, we have a new online browser showing up in here, which we can communicate with and run commands on, as I'm going to show you in the next lectures. So now the beef hook code will be injected in every website the target loads. This will work against HTTP websites, HTTPS websites, and even partially work against HSTS websites, like I showed you before, if the target goes to the HSTS website through a search engine that only uses normal HTTPS.
So now that we have our browser or target hooked, we can go on the commands and start executing commands on that target. You can use the search to filter you're looking for a certain command if you know what you're looking for, or you can use the categories and look for commands suitable to what you want to do on the target computer. Some of these commands are information gathering commands, some of them are social engineering, some of them will even give you full control over the target computer. There's a lot of commands, so I won't be able to go over all of them, but I'll be showing you some of the most important commands and examples of simple ones as well, so you know how to experiment and run the other commands. So we're starting, if you go in the browser, you'll see commands related to stuff that you can do inside the browser. So you can see things that will allow you to, for example, get a screenshot. You'll be able to try and gain and turn on the webcam and see if it works, and basically open the webcam on the target. You can gather information. If you go here on the exploits, you'll see a number of exploits that you can run. Again, depending on what's running on the target computer, you can run them. All you have to do is just click on the module that you want to run and click on execute. Sometimes some modules need to send some options to be set up, and we'll have examples of that as well. In the social engineering, again, there's some really cool stuff that you can do. You can show fake updates, fake notification bars, and stuff like that. So let's have an example of a very simple command. So again, we're going to do just an alert to show an alert box. So I'm just using the search to filter. And you can see here, this will just create an alert dialog. And it's going to say beef alert dialog. You can modify this and type in anything you want. For example, I'm going to type in test. And then when you hit execute, go on the target, and you'll see that the target got a message saying test. So this has been injected into the target browser. Another cool thing that you can do is the raw JavaScript. And this will allow you to execute any JavaScript you want. So again, you can look for Google for a useful JavaScript code, for example, a keylogger or whatever you want to do. Or you can write your own if you know JavaScript. And basically, whatever you write here will be executed on the target. Again, we're only saying an alert, and this is going to say beef raw JavaScript. I'm going to execute. And here we go. Again, we got a dialog saying beef raw JavaScript. Let's see if we can get a screenshot of the target computer. And we're going to use a plugin called SpiderEye, I think. Yeah, SpiderEye. So again, click on it, hit execute. Give it a second. Then we're going to click on the command here. Looks like this time didn't work properly. Let's just do it again. And here we go. As you can see, we got a screenshot of what the target person is looking at. Another really good plugin is a plugin. It's a redirect plugin. And it'll basically allow you to redirect the browser to any web page you want. This could be very useful because you can use it to redirect the target person and tell them that they need to download an update. And instead of giving them an update, give them a backdoor. You can redirect them to a fake login page, for example, for Facebook. You can really do anything you want with this. So you can set the website that you want the target to be redirected to. And we're going to redirect them to Beef Project in this example. And once you hit execute, as you can see here, they're redirected to Beef Project. These are some of the basic modules that you can use. Again, you can experiment with these, go over them, and see what would be useful in your particular situation. Okay, now let's have a look on a social engineering plugin that will allow us to steal usernames and passwords for accounts. So basically, the way this works is it'll dim the screen and it'll tell the person that you got logged out of your session, so please log in to your account again so you can get authenticated. So this will allow us to bypass HTTPS, HSTS, all the security that's used by the target account page. For example, if you're trying to get username and password for Facebook, then you'll be able to bypass all the security that Facebook uses, because what you're doing is you're actually just showing a fake Facebook page. So the user will never actually get in contact with Facebook. So let's just click on this. And you'll see that you can click from here. You can click what account that you want to hijack. So let's say we're going with Facebook, and you can select what the backlight will be. So we're just leaving that at gray, and we're going to execute this. And when we go to our target, you'll see that they're being told that they got logged out of their session. So please log in with your username and password. So I'm going to put my username as Zaid. Then I'm going to put my password as 123456. Hit enter. And if we go back here, you'll see that we got our username was Zaid and the password was 123456. So you can use this to hijack a number of accounts. For example, let's just have another example. If we go with YouTube, again, you give it an execute, come back, you see the YouTube logo, and you can try to log in, put a username, password, sign in, and that'll be captured. So again, this is a really good way of gaining access to accounts, because even if the user is not planning on logging into the account that you're trying to steal, then you'll kind of force them to enter their username and password to be logged back into their account, and then you'll be able to capture the username and the password. Okay, so let's see how we can gain full control and get a Meterpreter session from the target computer. So again, we're going to go on the commands. And we're going to go on the social engineering. Now, there's actually a number of ways that you can use in here to get a reverse shell. Now, it all depends on how you want to make your social engineering attack. What we're going to use a notification bar, a fake notification bar. And we're choosing Firefox because our target runs on Firefox or are using Firefox. So what this will do, it'll basically tell the user, it'll display a notification bar telling the user that there is a new update or there is a plugin that you need to install. Once they install the plugin, then they'll actually install a backdoor and you'll gain full access to their computer. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to use the same backdoor that we always created and we've been using. Now I actually have it stored in my web server. So I have it stored in var www.html, and I have it called update.exe, but it's the same backdoor, the same reverse HTTP Meterpreter that we used before. So I'm gonna give the full address to it here. So it's stored in 10.20.14.207. That's my actual IP. And the name of the file is update.exe. And then the notification is just saying there is an additional plugin that needs to be installed to display some elements on this page. Now you can change this and just say critical update for Firefox. Click here to install. So I'm going to hit execute. And if we go on the target, you can see that they're getting a message telling them that there's a new update for Firefox, and click here to download and install. So the target person will be like, oh yeah, I need to install this. So they download it. And now basically they have a backdoor downloaded on their machine. Once they try to run this backdoor to install the update, they think it's an update, but they'll actually run a backdoor which will give us full access to their computer. Before I run the backdoor, I need to listen on the port exactly like we did it before. So I'm just going to do show options here to show you. I'm not going to go through all the steps. It's using Metasploit multi-handler, same way we did it in the video of listening for ports. So we're using Meterpreter reverse HTTP. I have my IP and the port. So I'm just going to do exploit. And I'm listening for the connections now. Now let's run the update that we just downloaded. And if we go on the target, you can see that we got full control over it using a Meterpreter session. Now, again, this is just an example of one way of gaining full control over the target computer. There's a number of ways that you can do using Beef, and there's a number of social engineering attacks that you can do to gain full access on the target computer. So again, I highly recommend you go over the plugins and experiment with them and see what attacks you can come up with. So the Trojans that we created so far are very cool. They can bypass antivirus programs. They run two pieces of code. The first one runs in the background, which runs our own code, which does what we want to do. For example, open a port or connect back to us and give us a shell. And it runs another piece of code that the user expects. So it could display an image, it could play an MP3, or display a PDF file. This functionality makes it very difficult to detect. So the best thing to do is, the first thing is check the properties of the file and make sure that it is what it's claiming to be. So we have our GTR picture here, and we can see that it's JPG, so it looks like a picture and has an icon, and if I run it, I'll get a picture like we've seen in previous videos. But let's go right click and go on properties. And when we go to the properties, you'll see that this is an application, it's not a picture. So same goes with PDF, same goes with MP3. It should say MP3 if it was an MP3, it should say a PDF if it was a PDF, and it should say a JPG if it is a JPG. But in this case, we can see that it's saying, and it's telling us that it's an executable. Going on the details, you'll see that it is an application. So it's not a picture. If it was a picture, it should tell you that it's a picture. So from here, we'll know that we're being fooled by this. Another thing, you can play with the file name and you'll be able to reset it. If you just rename the file to anything else, you'll see that it's an exe file and it's not a JPEG. So if I just do it, change it to test, you'll see that the name has been changed to test. Now let's assume this Trojan was combined with an executable. So if you run it, you were expecting to get an exe and you were expecting an application. So let's assume that it's combined with Download Accelerator Plus instead of being combined with a picture like so. So the task is going to be more difficult because you are expecting an application anyway. So let's try to run this. Now obviously, again with the picture and with the PDF, Windows will tell you that you're trying to run an executable. But if you're expecting an executable, then you're going to run it anyway. such as the case with DAP, and this will obviously play the executable that you're looking for and send a reverse session to Kali. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to a tool called Resource Manager. And from this tool, if you go to the Network tab, I'm already in the Network tab, you'll be able to see all the open ports in your machine. And we can see here we have port 8080, and it's connecting to an IP address which is 10.20.14.203. Now obviously 8080 is not very suspicious, so even if it was on 80, then it could look not as suspicious. And also it's coming from a process called browser, which again is not very suspicious. The suspicious part is the remote address. So it's accessing an address of 10.20.14.203 that we just don't even know what it is. If it was a website, then putting this in the browser should take you to a website or to a server of that website. And in most cases, if this was a hacker computer, it will not take you to a website or anything, and then you'll know that this person is an attacker. To verify this, you can use tools called reverse DNS lookup. What that does is basically you give it an IP, and it should tell you what website this IP belongs to, or which domain this IP belongs to. So let's have an example on Facebook. So let's say in your resource manager, you've seen an IP and you're suspicious about it. So I'm actually going to get you a proper IP address for Facebook. So let's say, for example, you've seen this IP, there's a connection on port 80 going to this IP. So if you copy this and go on Google and search for reverse DNS, so I'm going to put the IP in here, the IP that you see in your resources, and you look it up. If it's for a proper website, then there's nothing to be concerned about. If it looks suspicious, then you'll know that this is going to a suspicious person. Now, if you see something like this and it's going to Facebook and you're browsing Facebook, then this is normal. You're using Facebook, so there's a connection between you and Facebook. Another way to discover malicious files is to use a sandbox. A sandbox is basically a place where your file will be executed and analyzed. They will check if any ports will be opened, if it's going to modify registry entries, if it's going to do any suspicious stuff. So it's not an antivirus program. Your Trojan might pass antivirus programs like we did. Our Trojan passes all antivirus programs, but the sandbox applications or the sandbox environments will run this into a controlled environment and try to see if it does anything suspicious and give you a report to that. You can Google again Sandbox Online, and an example of it is a website called Hybrid Analysis. Using the website is very simple. All you have to do is just go to the URL, and select your file and upload it. Now I've done this already, so I'm just going to show you the report because analyzing the file and doing the report might take some time. So once you get the report, you'll see some basic information. You'll see that there was malicious indicators have been found. Now it's hiding it from you and you have to use the full version and pay for it to see them, but you don't really need to see them. If you read the whole report, you'll be able to know that this file is malicious and it's going to do something bad on your computer. First of all, you can see that the file suppresses error boxes, so it doesn't display error boxes. It also modifies registry. And you can see the registry parameters that it's modifying. You can see that it's playing with the internet settings and with the connections. You can also see that it's using Windows Socket Service, so it's trying to create connections. You can also see that it's playing with the address of the process. Scrolling down, you'll see one of the most important indicators. Now, obviously, there's more information in here. Right here on the network place, you'll see that it tries to connect to this IP on port 8080. Now again, you can go on this IP and do a reverse DNS lookup and see that this IP is not related to any website. Also, when you upload the payload to this place, it's never going to be executed on your computer. It's going to be executed on their server in a sandbox environment. Now, obviously, the method I showed you, you should always do it in a virtual box when you are executing it here on your Windows. Always do it in a virtual machine. Don't do it on your main machine. Or you can use this method where you upload it into a sandbox environment and it will be analyzed for you, and then you can read the report.